Welcome to the Gold Room Podcast. I'm your co-host today, Mark Schneider. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Not a problem, mate.
If you haven't subscribed, please do that. Like, share, comment, do all the fun stuff. Make the algorithm work for us.
Yes, definitely do that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hey, we got a great guest today. We've got Nathan from Lambron Contracting. Welcome to the show.
No, thanks for having me on board, and thanks for inviting me down, Josh.
Mate, not a problem. Thank you very much for tuning up. That is hands down the best introduction that I think we've had to date, Mark. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. I've been practicing.
That's why I was late.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. Bloody tardy bugger. Right, mate. Look, we always kick things off here in the Gold Room with the life and the times. So give us the life and the times of Nathan from Lambron Contracting.
I was born in Esperance, down bottom WA there in 1997. Spent first couple of years on
young bugger?
It doesn't look like it, does it?
Not with the grey hair, mate. I thought you were pushing bloody more my age.
No. And lived in Leonora for first couple of years of my life. My old man actually started Lambron in Leonora just before I was born in the 90s there, and just had a couple of water carts running around, and he was running under Lambron Holdings back then, and then it must have been about 99 or so, we packed up from Leonora and shifted over to Dongra on the Midwest there on the coast.
Yep.
Not a bad little town. Pretty much grew up there and lived there for the last 20 odd years. And then, done all my schooling in Geraldton.
Nice.
So, that was all right, driving up.
You been up to Geraldton?
I have not, no.
Beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Beautiful spot. You need to get up there, mate. Travel that beautiful state of WA.
I definitely do. Unfortunately, my work has me heading east, so I've been in Canberra and all those other places, but definitely need to spend more time in the beautiful WA.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. The coastline up there is really nice.
Good fishing up there too, eh?
Yeah. Right time of the year.
Yeah.
I've heard you can go up and swim at the whale sharks.
I did that.
Yeah,
that's
Exmouth.
Yeah, Exmouth. Yeah, it's bloody fantastic.
That's on the bucket list of things to do as a dirty American.
Yeah.
Mate, they've actually got massive satellites that there's a US Army base up there. Actually, did you know that?
Yes, actually, I did,
Okay.
and I know that because my last job before, not to take away your podcast, but my last job before I moved to Australia was I owned the military satellite communications for the U.S. Coast Guard. And that's one of our stations that we communicate through. So I did actually know that, which is pretty interesting. So.
Well, I would have thought that would have been the first bloody first port of call, mate. You know,
Straight in the
Excuse
car,
pun?
straight up there.
Like that.
Yeah,
okay.
port of call. That's good. Yeah,
Awesome. All right, Nate. Sorry, bro. Sorry. So carry on.
Done my schooling in Geraldton and then dropped out of school, finished year 11.
How old?
I was just 16.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah, best thing I've ever done.
Yep.
Dropped out, done a mechanic apprenticeship, so it was 3 years doing that. Finished my mechanic apprenticeship, done a couple months there and threw the towel in. Yep. I was actually sort of in the line to get a job at Westrack in Geraldton there.
Okay.
And the old boy, I was sitting around at home waiting, the old boy goes, when you come out and jump on a digger for us. And then, that was pretty much where it started.
The start of it.
Yeah, probably lucky that I didn't get on board with Westrack straight away. Otherwise, probably still be there now.
Yeah. They pay bloody well though. They pay well. But I suppose Lambron Contracting. If you're an old man, how many years did your old man have it for before at Lambron Holdings?
Lambron Holdings must have been about 5 years, I reckon, in the 90s there.
And then what year did he switch over to Lambron Contracting? Was that when you were involved?
No, so that was about 2024.
Okay.
When he kicked things back off. So when we moved to Dongra there, he bought a property, 30 odd acres, and decided to subdivide it. And he thought, I might just buy a little excavator and do a bit of the underground trenching for the services and that myself. And
cool.
He done that and sort of had a digger sitting out the back a year or so later, and one of his other mates in Dongra was working in the iron ore through the Midwest there. Yep. And he hit him up and said, what are you doing with that digger? Do you want to come out and do a bit of oversized rock breaking on the ROM? And I reckon that was about 2024, early 25. And then he sort of pushed back. He didn't want to go back into the mining space, and then ended up agreeing. And so that was about 25, and then 05.
05. I was just about to dial you back on that.
05. And then he sort of kept running through mainly the iron ore scene through the Midwest there.
Yeah, okay.
For about 10 or so years. And sort of 2015 or so, started quietening down. He probably had two excavators and a little 6-wheel tipper and sort of 3 blokes at that stage in sort of 2015. And a couple of years later, he actually come down to Perth, done a little bit in the sort of civil construction down here, and then sort of had 1 or 2 diggers still up in the Midwest. And that was sort of when I come on board. Probably about late 2018, I think it was.
Yep, beautiful.
So what was your dad's vision when he kicked off Lambron? Because it sounds like you didn't want to get into mining, but they ended up in it. So where did he want to start with?
I don't think he really had a vision. So he was managing a agricultural engineering manufacturer in Dongra there, and he sort of was doing this subdivision excavation works on the side. And then that was sort of when he left the agricultural side and then jumped back out into the mining. So, and it's something people always ask, sort of what's your vision? What made you get to where you are? But we're sort of pretty casual. We just go sort of day by day and
get in and get it done.
Get in, get it done, and
sort of the vision was go where the opportunities are.
That's right. Yeah. A lot of people set goals and then, you set a goal that you think's achievable, say a 10-year goal, you get 5 years down the track and you're nowhere near it. You either shoot too high and you set yourself up for fail or, so we sort of just...
And it can also have the adverse reaction as well, where you set yourself a goal and you absolutely smash it out of the park.
That's right, yeah. So,
mate, for those who aren't familiar with Lambron Contracting, give us a rundown of your day-to-day.
Yeah. So at the moment we have about 100 pieces of heavy plant and equipment in our fleet. We hire about 30 odd as well, 110 or so employees, about 10 across 10 different sites in mainly the Goldfields.
Okay. So you're out of the Midwest now?
Pretty well. We sort of...
No iron ore?
Little bit.
Oh,
not too much. Sort of
cool.
2 or 3 blokes and couple machines, but that's about it in the iron ore. So, but yeah, we mainly build a lot of tailings dams at the moment.
Yep. I've seen some of them. You guys, some are on LinkedIn, some of that drone footage. Whoever's doing that's doing a bloody good job. You got some ripper photos, and the feedback that I've had from doing a little bit of investigation work on you, on the company, is absolutely every single client that I've spoken to on your behalf has just come back with absolutely, you guys are a stellar operation.
Yeah.
Great team. Obviously, it stems from a great team.
Yeah. No, we take a lot of pride in our work, and one big thing that sort of sets us different from the rest of the earthmoving field is all of our blokes say, there's a difference between wanting to be an operator and sort of loving dirt in a way,
Yeah.
It sounds a bit odd, but, all our boys like moving dirt and making dirt look tidy, and
that little boy's dream that just never grew out of.
That's right, yeah.
Mine was smashing atoms, but
Similar.
It's similar. It's just mine's done at the subatomic level. So you kind of gave us this great introduction about how your dad started out doing agricultural engineering and then shifted into excavating, and then you were in iron ore, and you might mention that you shifted now into primarily gold. As far as the work you're doing, how did that transition occur, and what was the key point that said, I don't want to be in iron, I want to be working more for these gold miners? I'm sure it's about that opportunity stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, mainly the opportunity. Sort of the economy pushed us away from the mining, sort of quieting down a bit, and back sort of that 2015 stage, the old boy wasn't sort of chasing growth, or he was just trying to keep busy and keep a couple blokes busy and the machines we had. And then, we come down to Perth, spend a couple of years here, and we visited Leonora, and we got a lot of history in Leonora, but we'd never actually done much work in there for...
What sort of history, mate?
So on dad's side of the family is all Leonora based. My granddad still lives there.
Awesome.
A few of my dad's brothers live there, and pretty rich history out in the Goldfields in general, and Kalgoorlie and that as well.
The Goldfields has amazing history.
Isn't Leonora only 200 people?
Pretty much.
Are you related to all of them?
At one stage, we probably were.
In the early days, mate. In the early days. Yeah. You'd hope not now.
Nah. There's probably still 20-odd relatives or so out there out of the 200 if you dived right into it. So. And
they marry people, and you're effectively related to all of them now, right?
That's right, yeah.
They branch out to the Gulf, to Kalgoorlie and wherever else. Hopefully some come to Perth.
Yeah.
Mate, in an industry full of competition, there's some big bloody competitors out there in this space. What sets apart Lambron Contracting from the rest, do you reckon?
I guess there's a few different parts of it. One we touched on briefly was the fact that mainly from a management level, which then filters down to all the boys, is we all love what we're doing. All our guys don't just like driving a loader or a digger or loading trucks. They like seeing the progress and those drone photos and that you're seeing.
They're taken by the staff on the ground.
Staff on the ground, yeah.
Awesome.
Half our staff, or probably third of our staff of over 100 has a LinkedIn profile. They really love the environment, and they're the sort of employees we chase, the ones that love what they're doing, want to be there, and that sort of solves a lot of the issues down the track as well. And then, one big one is obviously our staff and our recruiting, I think, is something that sets.
How do you go about your recruiting?
Pretty much all word of mouth.
Yeah, okay.
We don't have a HR department or anything like that. All our recruiting is done through word of mouth, our supervision, our superintendents. All our superintendents interview our when we are recruiting.
That's great, because they're the ones working with them out on site, right?
That's right, yeah. So we sort of take that out of a HR role and cut straight to the chase and get it done that way. And I think that's really important, giving us a really high standard of employees.
Yep, beautiful.
So what are some of the common challenges or issues that you face in your line of work?
A lot of people would say people, but we tend to disagree with
clients. Oh, no client's a bad client, mate.
No, that's it.
Poor quarterly performance reviews.
Clients are generally pretty good. We have a pretty good client base that we're sort of growing over the last 5 or so years out in the Goldfields, and probably the biggest one is machinery. A fitter by trade, but still, no matter how many fitters you got, you never stay on top of it.
Yeah. Are the team good on the gear?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, no, all the boys are pretty good, and you sort of don't stick around too long if you don't know what you're doing.
Are your guys that are operating the machines, are they also the mechanics too, or do you have a separate group? Or
Yes, so the fitter mechanics are all separate.
Okay.
So we have about 20-odd mechanics.
Contractors or your own stuff?
Mainly contractors at the moment.
Yep.
Got
any bloody standout contractors that you want to bloody sing their praises?
Oh, there's a few of the boys out there, Skinny and Durries. They sort of all. We try and get boys that work for themselves. Once again, if you're working for yourself, you're a lot more accountable, and we find that's another way to get your contractors to take a lot more care. Is
rather than just sending bloody Tom, Dick, and Harry out.
That's right. Yeah. So sort of keep all the boys accountable, and it works well with the contract fitters.
How does Lambron approach jobs differently to others in the field?
One of the ways that the first step obviously is tendering a job, winning a job. For a company that has 100-odd people, we sort of have overheads of 5 or 6 in the management team, whereas a lot of other companies that would obviously be a fair bit higher. So that's one way we not only manage to keep the cost down, which helps us be competitive in the tender process and winning projects, but also streamlines a lot of the processes while you're doing the job. There's not, if someone's got an issue, that probably 90% of our crew would have my phone number, ring me up straight away, issue, it's resolved, it's resolved. And it might sound like a small thing, but when you got 30 odd blokes on one site and you got one or two little issues that are rolling on, it sort of infects the whole crew. So keep that management staff short and sort of cut to the chase.
That's a big team to to have everyone's got your phone number. But I think that's fantastic. I'm sure they're appreciative of it as well.
Yeah, that's right. And we just find it's a lot quicker to resolve issues, and then the quicker you can resolve an issue, the less other people put their input into an issue, and then it turns into bigger than Ben-Hur pretty quick.
Yeah.
So what are the pros and cons out of operating out of a regional hub like Leonora? I know it's 200 people, but that's still kind of a pretty big hub for the mining area.
Yeah. It's not common either. It's it's not a common hub. I remember when I learned that that's where your base was, I thought a normal base would be Kalgoorlie or Perth, But I guess you're quite close, for Mobe and Demobe, that'd be the benefit, right?
Yeah, so the Mobe and Demobe is one big benefit, apart from one job just south of Cal.
Mobilisation and demobilisation. Mark, I just thought,
I understand that Australians abbreviate everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll call me Mar now.
Yeah,
Just drop a couple off the end.
I was also in the Navy. We do similar things.
Yeah.
So,
but it would be mobilisation with a Z.
Yeah, true. Yes.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So in the U.S. Navy, like Commander Submarine Squadron 7 is ComSubRon 7.
Okay.
So we do the same abbreviation. So I figured it out that Mobe and Demobe.
I just thought I'd give you a hand with that, mate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Thanks.
That's all right. Sorry, Nate, cut you off. Go.
No, all good. So apart from the Mobe and Demobe, it's a very central location to the gold industry or the gold mining industry in WA. Kalgoorlie's close, but Leonora's even closer to, your Lavertons, Leinster, places like that. And we have that local connection as well. That played a big part in us moving back to town.
Cool.
But yeah, we probably moved that we decided to have our premise there because of the local sort of connection we have, and obviously having the mining close by played a part, but that sort of just come about as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
So,
mate, how do you keep your team motivated? 100 people out in the field. How do you keep them motivated? You had daily calls with the supervisors, or what is it? What keeps your team going strong?
Yeah. So just that, on the ground touch. I haven't been out there much lately, but our superintendents, our ops managers, they're not based in Perth or based in an office in Cal. That they're on site for their week on week off roster or 2 and 1. They're 3 days here, 3 days there, having that on touch feel with all of our employees, and we just think by having that face to face interaction goes a long way into making everyone want to be around and enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah. So we don't have an office anywhere apart from Leonora.
Is that something you want to grow to, or like having a hub in Kalgoorlie or Perth?
Probably not at this stage, because we own a lot of our machinery. There's not much need for any machinery to come back to Perth. We finish a job in Cal, everything goes back to Leonora.
Yep.
If we get to that stage where, if your work's in the Pilbara or something like that, you sort of need to come back to Perth before you go up. But at this stage, we're pretty happy kicking around Leonora.
So when you get issued the tender to build the dry dock at Henderson, you're just going to bring the equipment down, dig it out. Everyone else can do the work, and you take equipment back to Leonora, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all far out. You're just giving away contracts for.
I'm making an assumption here.
Yeah.
But I mean, earth moving, right?
You want to get the best crew on the ground.
Yeah, and that's a lot of earth to move in probably a pretty sensitive area, Henderson. You got all sorts of oil and gas stuff down there, and huge tanks of equipment. I want the best people there.
For sure.
That's it.
Mark's making all the calls. So this is the guy. I'm just not doing anything. This is the guy that makes the calls. This is the guy you need to be speaking to.
Yeah. So we know that when you build the dry dock, that's going to be your next memorable project. So what are some of the memorable projects that you have done? Because you've probably seen some really cool things, and your dad's 20 years. You've probably been doing it since you're about knee high to a grasshopper. Using American colloquialism there.
I like that.
Yeah, a couple memorable ones is probably. I always remember when I finished my apprenticeship there, and I was sitting around waiting to go on to something else, and the old boy said, "Oh, you want to come out to the mine site, jump on the digger for a few days while you're sitting around." And I'd operated machinery, around home and things like that, and I'd probably been on a mine site hiding in the bunk of a truck or something before, but I'd never officially been on a mine site. And remember walking into the office and jump into that room and do your induction on the computer, and that'd be an hour or so, and then I'll catch you when you get out. And he'd already introduced me to our client rep, and punching away at the induction, and I'll come out and the old boy's gone.
He left you there?
He left me there, yeah. And I rang him up and he goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm halfway back to Donga, but you'll be right. Just go jump in the digger." And
didn't know what to do.
I didn't.
You knew how to operate.
Yeah, I knew how to operate, but never been on a mine site. But I'd seen a few haul trucks and things like that. But
courage under fire, mate.
He just chucked me straight in the deep end. But it was touch and go at the time. But
cool.
that sort of thing that.
Shit, mate. I take the old mine site inductions have changed dramatically. An hour and a half. When you said an hour and a half, I thought, what the hell sort of induction was that?
Yeah. And
I had to go through an hour and a half just to go do a tour of Sandy Ridge that I didn't go on.
Yeah, all online. Do it online.
Yeah, it was all done remotely. But yeah, an hour and a half just to go visit a site and a tour.
Did you get paid for it?
I was.
Did they build Nate?
Yeah. Good. It was all Nate's crap.
Yeah. Look, inductions are important. It's safe. It's safety. It's that initial safety aspect of getting onto a site. So, it's got to be done.
They got to be done.
Is it like Hot Wheels for like adults though? Like you play with your little cars, but it's like even better because it's bigger and exciting. Think about when you're like 3, right? Like Hot Wheels are the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But this is like the adult version of Hot Wheels. Like
the big diggers and trucks.
Yeah.
They're something to behold. Some of those some of those dumpies are massive, and some of the excavators are just out of this world.
So what's always funny to me is when you think about the engineers get to test all this stuff. So there's a great video that where they tested, and I'm bringing this into nuclear because that's what I like to do.
Go.
But they tested all these spent fuel containers, and it's like if I let a 6-year-old design a test program, let's take the semi truck, put rockets on it, and ran it into a wall. Right.
Where did they design or do this?
In the deserts of Nevada in the 1970s. There's a video online. You have to show. Yeah, it's
okay. We'll chuck it on. Right.
Yeah, set it on fire, all that stuff. Right. So all I can imagine is 6-year-old you is now. Well, you're not 6, obviously, but is in the back 26. Of your mind.
27, right?
Yeah,
27, yeah.
But or so 7-year-old you would have. But so you're sitting in that digger the first time. I don't even know. We were 17, 18.
I would have been just 19.
Just 19, right? Yeah. And like this
19 to get on a mine site.
Yeah.
Yeah, that 6-year-old, mindset of you, I'm going to go move some dirt.
Yeah.
Think about how cool that is.
Yeah, that's the love. That's the love of it, right? And that's what you talk about with your staff.
Yeah, that's right. And especially being brought up, with, like you say, excavators and that sitting in the backyard when I was 10 years old. And then to be finally out there, and I probably didn't know I loved it as much as I did because I was always around it.
Yep.
But then once I got out there and started doing it all day, every day, it was sort of no stop, and realised how much I appreciated the industry, I guess.
Well, mate, that brings me on to my next question. What's something that most people don't understand about the industry before getting into it that you think that you can offer some sound advice to?
Or probably the biggest one, which sort of is losing a bit of touch, is that a lot more goes into earth moving than people just see a loader or a truck moving around. But there's a lot more into the construction side of earth moving, which I feel is slowly losing the touch, and people are slowly losing, I guess, the experience and the knowledge around, constructing a tailings dam isn't just tipping out a dump truck load of dirt and pushing it out. There's a lot more of the engineering side and things like that the crew have to know to make the process easier, rather than, supervisor in the office, only them knowing, Feel a lot, that sort of knowledge, I guess, which is pretty general across a lot of fields lately.
Yeah.
So being, the non-mining guy in here, what are tailings?
So it's pretty much the product that you get out of the back end of a processing plant. So once the dirt or the ore goes all through the process of the processing plant.
Minerals have been extracted. It's water. It's plant water, slurry, and a whole bunch of chemicals dependent on the plant.
Gotcha. So like if I was to compare this like to smelting steel, it's the slag.
I guess so, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Kind of the leftover shit.
Yeah.
And so you got to contain all that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So generally contain it legally, environmentally wise. You have to contain it. They'll also recycle the water, pump that back to the processing plant. One, you're recycling the water, and two, you also have residue of your chemicals, your cyanide and your acids and things like that.
Lime and
still in there, which they pump it back through and reuse those chemicals. It's a low percentage, but most people still run it back through.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming those tailings, you got some kind of storage pond, and so that's got to be lined, right? And so that's kind of the stuff that you're talking about from the engineering perspective, is you got to line it.
Yep. Yeah. So
you don't have to line everyone you were saying previously.
Nah, not previously. Some dams are lined, some aren't. Generally, just depends on the natural ground materials, whether they're permeable or you can sort of engineer the natural ground to ensure that you're not going to have seepage or leakage and
leaching into a waterway.
That's right.
That's probably not ideal.
That's what we don't
Enviros
want.
will be on your case like there's no tomorrow.
That's it.
Yeah, it's the last thing you need.
Yeah, and so when you're lining it, I'm assuming it's probably either like a clay line or like a polyethylene plastic liner, right?
Yep. Yeah. So generally,
How are you joining those sheets together? What's the process for that?
Of the poly HDPE sheets.
Let the man speak.
Sorry, man, I've got this problem. I actually told him that. I was like, man, I'm going to interrupt you. The comments have said, I think it was on your episode, someone was just like, stop fucking interrupting him. I was just like, oh, shit.
That was based off that comment you sent me.
Yeah, I know, mate. Cheers.
So generally, they're just welded, so fusion welded generally.
Yeah. Okay.
They'll run 2 runs of fusion welding and then sort of, I don't know about now, they used to sort of charge the section between the 2 welds with compressed air to check for leakage.
Oh, wow.
And then, that's sort of how they do the QA/QC and ensure that the dam's fully lined and fully sealed.
So QA is quality assurance and QC is quality control.
Mate, I love it.
That's it.
I'm learning something every day.
Over it.
Shots fired.
Yeah, no, I like it, mate. You got to. Mate, what's next on the cards for Lambron? Next 12 to 18 months. You got some big goals? Big projects?
We got some big projects. As we spoke about before, we don't have too many goals. We sort of just play it as it comes and tend to what comes out across our desk, and what doesn't come sort of.
Yep.
But the next 12 months is looking pretty good. We've got a lot on. We're starting a project in the next couple of weeks where we step into running a 100-ton load and haul fleet, which that'll be the first time we've done. So that's pretty exciting for us as a company and for our crew, sort of taking that next step, project-wise, I guess. So
explain a 100-ton operation.
So generally, previously, we've used dump trucks that can hold 40-ton payload worth of dirt. this next step was stepping into trucks that can hold 100-ton
Oh, wow.
payload.
I didn't know that.
And
Did you know that?
No, I did not. That's a huge truck.
That's a huge truck, yeah.
Yeah.
What truck is it?
we run 777
okay.
Caterpillars.
Far out.
So, yeah. No, we're pretty excited to get cracking onto that one and start having a bit of gear roll into site in the next week or two.
Beautiful, mate. Well, look, thanks again for coming in. Much appreciated. I've learned a whole lot more about Lambron Contracting rather than what I just read online. The photos that I'd seen of those tailing stems, mate, they're something to behold. So I'd strongly advise anyone who's looking at getting a tailing facility up and running or a rebuild, if you're looking at the next 3 months or the next 9 months, get in contact with you guys.
Appreciate coming on and good to meet you, Mark. And
Yeah, he's a legend. He's got a couple more. He's doing a couple more of these. It's bloody awesome. Mark, thank you very much, mate. Much
thank
appreciated
you.
getting you on again. Look forward to it.
Yeah, this has been fun. I love learning about new things.
Yeah,
and,
same here. Same here.
And we'll have to talk about future in AUKUS and nuclear stuff that's coming on because what you're doing is actually very related.
Yep.
Yep. Nah, definitely. Sounds
Beautiful.
good.
Well, everyone, thanks very much for tuning into another episode on the Gold Room. As Mark said at the start, jump on, help us out, support us, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.